Moonknight on Disney Plus has officially ended. We've gotten all 6 episodes. Moonknight was, to me, an incredible show. I really enjoyed it. I thought the action sequences were amazing. The acting performances were just peak level, honestly. They were perfect. Oscar Isaac is just incredible. Also, May, who plays Layla, is just tremendous. I don't think I've seen her in anything before, but I'm definitely a fan. She was incredible. Now, going into Moonknight, I knew of the character. I knew the basics about him. I've read some comics. I also knew a little bit about Egyptian mythology just by interest from childhood. So this show was right in my wheelhouse. I didn't really find myself confused. I was in it 100%. However, and I definitely understand this, my wife, for example, never read Moonknight, never knew anything about Egyptian mythology. My dad never seen or read anything about Moonknight, never knew anything about Egyptian mythology. A couple other people who are in that same boat I noticed had a really tough time getting into the show and just fully understanding it and enjoying it and appreciating it. Another group of people I know who knew nothing about Moonknight but knew some about Egyptian mythology, they were able to get on board and really enjoy the show. I do think it is a little bit of a miss. I do see the common trend where if you know nothing about both those boats, then you're just completely lost. And the show doesn't really do a great job of really helping you understand until maybe it's too late. Typically with shows, if there's a level of mystery or if there's a level of just understanding the lore, you'd want those issues resolved by episode 2, latest episode 3, not the second to last episode of the season. Or I guess in a limited series case, the entire show. So I do feel like Moonknight maybe missed a little bit for that portion of the fan base. But again, if you knew at least one of those things, if you knew a little bit about Moonknight or a little bit about Egyptian mythology, you were all in, you were fully invested, you understood the show, and you probably enjoyed it. The only issue with this show, and honestly all the Marvel shows so far, except for WandaVision, I feel like these Marvel shows are taking a little bit too much time to develop the plot. There's been a lot of introduction, which I understand. I don't think the end game for these characters is Disney Plus. I think they want to use them and develop their stories in future movies and maybe other series. Everything we've really gotten outside of WandaVision and Loki, it's been introduce these characters and maybe we'll have a little plot, but really the goal is we're going to save them for something else in the future. And then we'll develop their characters. See, I don't really like that too much. I'd much rather Disney make these shows 8 episodes, 7, 8, even maybe even 7 episodes. Maybe the issue is it's 1 episode too short. 7, 8 episodes. You can then have your typical 3-episode introduction. 4 episodes still is a little bit of an introduction, but things are starting to kick off. And then 5, 6, 7, 8 are just throwing punches, just completely dialed in. Just everything's happening. It's chaotic, but it's beautiful. That's what I want, and that's what I need. And that's why I feel like a lot of shows, not just on Disney Plus, a lot of shows are missing that as of late because everyone has this idea that these seasons need to be short. The 6-episode formula works for WandaVision. It works for Loki, and it'll probably work for Kenobi. Because those stories, you don't really have a lot of introduction. We knew who Wanda was. The only thing we really needed to be introduced to was Westview, this new community she was part of. They did that day 1. They dropped episode 1, 2. Then the next week, episode 3, we're off and running. Every week, we're theorizing, wondering what's next, what's happening, what's coming. Same with Loki. The first couple episodes, we understood who the TVA were. Then we just kind of kept going. We just went right into it. That's how these shows work, and that's how they should work. We're spending the first 3.5 episodes learning about the characters and what's their backgrounds and everything like that. And the story doesn't really give us a chance to be invested until it's too late. Me personally, although I enjoyed Moonknight, I didn't feel like I really was invested in the story. Like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait till next week's episode until episode 5. I got to the end of episode 4. I was like, okay, now I'm in. And I got 2 episodes of, oh my gosh, Moonknight. The majority of the show, I was just kind of like, can we just get this thing going? This also leads to a rushed finale as well, which to me, this is the biggest miss in the Moonknight finale. Otherwise, I thought it was a great ending to the season. The final episode was actually really good. It developed, it rose in stakes, and then it had a nice ending. It was good. It was a good finale to Moonknight. However, there's two portions that it just jumped. And I felt like those two portions it skipped over were so meaningful. And it's just a missed opportunity. Number one, I didn't like how Layla was like, I'm going to do this by myself. I don't need to be an avatar. And then 2 seconds later, yeah, she was right. Literally 2 seconds later, she had Khonshu's statue and she just threw it on the ground, destroyed it, released Khonshu. That 2 seconds! That would have been a great 5th episode right there in itself. Her journey to get to Khonshu's statue. We just kind of jumped over those stakes. And that was the first portion where I was like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit rushed. Then the rest of it was developed super nicely up until the point it looks like Harrow is about to kill Mark again. He's about to win again. And then they did that same effect they did in the beginning of the show, which I understand why they wanted a full circle moment because of how the show started and you skipped over those action sequences. You want to show that they still don't understand why that's happening. But that would have been such a cool thing to see, like, Jake Lockley take over and just finally see that action sequence. That would have been so awesome. But we didn't get that. Instead, they just jumped over it. The show ended, and then the credit scene, you're like, oh, hey, Jake. And so to me, it almost, even though the show ended nicely, it felt a little flat, and it felt abrupt, honestly. It's just, that's my only problem with it, and that issue could easily be solved if they didn't stick to a 6-episode formula. Just give us just give us a 7th episode. Just a 7th episode. You don't have to rush anything. You don't have to add too much time to the timetable or the turnaround time you want these shows to be running. You don't have to add too much, or make the show 20 minutes longer. Just make the finale 20 minutes longer. Just break the hour mark. I promise you, we will not be disappointed. We will not be upset that the show ran over an hour. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on Moon Knight. I thought it was great action sequences, great story, just really, really well done. Unfortunately, I do feel bad that if you know nothing about Moon Knight, you know nothing about Egyptian mythology, you were definitely kind of left a little bit hanging. But that's just my small sample size. If you were in that boat, if you knew nothing about either of those hats, let me know in the comments how you felt about the show, because I'm definitely interested in hearing your thoughts. Again, Disney Plus just needs to change the 6-episode formula, and I promise these shows will be perfect. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts about Moon Knight in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.